On the night I was diagnosed, I was really confused because I was 9 years old. So I had no idea what diabetes was. And then in the next couple of days, I kind of learned, like, it's an autoimmune disease, you're going to have to take shots and check your blood sugar for the rest of your life, and I was really scared. But it got better, and it doesn't seem like such a big deal now as it did when I was 9 years old. They had you do this activity when I was diagnosed. You drew like 2 circles, and one was like, a pie chart of how much of your life was diabetes. And so, at that point, 90% of my life was my care. At this point, it's not that much anymore. And it's gotten better.
Hi, my name is Grant Sari, and I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was in 8th grade. The change was a lot easier for me since I had 2 older brothers that had it, but most of the main changes I had to do was make sure I kept exercising every day, making sure I counted my carbs, and just always keeping something with me in case anything happened. And it was really hard to tell my friends at first. I skipped a couple weeks of school just because I was so scared to tell them, but once I started telling people, it really just became easier and easier.
Hi, I'm Nick Retta, and I got diabetes about a year ago. And when I first got it, I was pretty nervous, like all the different changes I'm gonna have to make in my life, like eating, not eating, be able to like candy and all that, which I kind of liked a lot. And I was kind of nervous telling my friends at first, but I eventually got over it because I kind of had to. But since then, I've been keeping it slow, like low carb is working pretty well for me.
The biggest thing from the difference between middle school and high school for me was just the independence. You don't have to go to the nurses like I don't, and you can just have yourself check your blood whenever you need it. And you can just carry everything around your own, and you don't need to be constantly monitored by supervision of the teachers. It's more based on what you do.
When I transitioned to high school from middle school, the biggest thing for me was that my care wasn't really in the hands of my teachers anymore. It wasn't in the hands of my parents. It was my responsibility. And it was really scary freshman year. And, it was a lot of, can I actually, manage myself? And I was able to. And it became a lot easier for me than I thought it would be. The biggest thing for me was knowing what I had to do when without someone there to remind you.
The big difference between middle school and high school is the independence you get from the teachers and the nurse. For me, I don't like lugging around my insulin everywhere, so I just keep it there and I just pick it up and drop it off at the beginning and end of lunch. But other than that, I'm totally independent with what I do.
So for me, I keep my diabetes supplies with me consistently. I always have low treating supplies with me in my backpack. I carry around 2 juice boxes and a roll of glucose tablets. And to treat highs, I wear an insulin pump. So when I'm in class and I feel high, I check and immediately correct with my insulin pump. And that's always with me.
Whenever I get a low, I make sure that I always have something with me just in case, and then I can just sneak it in class and just eat it without anyone really realizing. I always make sure I check my blood sugars before this or before I eat. Then whenever I have any highs, I like to dose with my lunch. I always keep my carbs in here, just so I always know where they are. And then keep my insulin in this pocket with needles in a baggie so that's easier to grab. And I keep my monitor in the biggest part. And it's just easier to keep it all organized so you know where it is and when you need it.
Whenever I start to feel funny or anything, like shaky, I usually check just to make sure it's not anything super severe, but I still eat, although like 15 carbs or whatever. And whenever I like to check, I usually make sure it's like between a certain range so I know like either to dose for it or just get it back up. And before meals, I like to check just in case I am high, so I can bring it back down to like a good level so I can be good.
I'm so sick of all these immunizations. They just never end. Health files, sick kids. I don't know what I'm going to do.
You're not the same when your blood sugars are low. Try Snickers. Better?
Better.
The easiest thing to help manage your diabetes is keep on the routine with whatever you do. Like, if you always check before you eat, do that. And with school, it becomes a little easier just because you're already on the routine with classes. But during the summer, just make sure you always check before you eat or go to bed.
One of the most important things that I have found about my care is letting other people know that I have diabetes and making them aware of it so that if something goes wrong, they know what to do. Obviously, it's not, the way you want to start a conversation with someone new is just, I'm a type 1 diabetic. But once I've made friends, I've explained to them, just so you know, I'm a type 1 diabetic, this is what I do, and it's part of my life. And everyone I've ever told has been completely understanding, and no one's, been weird about it. But I would definitely suggest telling people that you're diabetic. It's always better to have people know and be able to help you than have no one know and have something happen and, you could get seriously injured or hurt.
Before I go to a sport or like karate, I take soccer too. I usually eat a little snack just so I don't go low during the game, and that won't prevent me from not participating in the game, so I can give it my all. And I always make sure to check before just in case I'm not low going into a sport, because that would be pretty dangerous because they're usually like an hour to an hour and a half long.
Before I ever go to try and play sports, I always check my blood sugars to make sure I'm not too low or too high. Because if you're too low and after exercising, you're just going to go lower. And if you're too high, it's just going to be too hard for you to breathe and you're going to feel like you're running through a swamp.
So for me, driving as a diabetic, I always try and check before I go out on the road because it's risky to drive without checking because something can happen and you could get in a car crash, get pulled over, and someone wouldn't know that you're diabetic. So when I was learning to drive, that was something that I really felt was important, and I made sure I always did, and I still do. Wear a medical alert ID when I drive so that if something does happen, I go low in the middle of a long drive. If I'm pulled over, the law enforcement knows that, okay, she's a diabetic, this is what's going on.
I think one of the most important things before you start driving and get one of these is make sure you have a card that says one of these. It has your physician's name on it. It has just everything that the police would need to know in case you get in an accident. And always keep some sugar, like a Gatorade or just any candy in your car just in case you do feel low. Then pull over and eat it before you start driving again.
My message to you would be that even though transitioning to high school can seem really scary and a lot of responsibility, it's way easier than you think it is. I mean, it's going to be hard, but you just need to keep working at it and it will get better.